And you'll just see just how electric this sport can truly be, especially when you get the best of the best all in one place. And that's what we've got at Lifetime Fitness in San Clemente, California. This should be a fantastic semifinal matchup between Matt Wright, Riley Newman taking on Tyler Loong and Callan Dawson. No Eagle, Morgan Evans back with you here on Tennis Channel. All right, Morgan, so if you have to give us the bird's eye view of this matchup in particular, these are two teams that can certainly take the title when it's all said and done at this tournament.
For sure. On paper, Matt Wright and Riley Newman are the favorites in this one. They are coming off a fantastic run of tournaments. They've won the last 2 straight. And in the Atlanta tournament just a few weeks ago, they finally took down the formidable, dominant team of Ben and Colin Johns. So they are feeling red hot and confident. However, Tyler Loong, just about to serve, he presents some serious issues for any team. We're going to see an incredibly lively arm and an ability to earn a ball. That's where we jump across the kitchen line, take a ball out of the air. He does it better than anybody. It's incredible.
So one thing that always stands out to me about this sport, it seems like a lot of these doubles teams in particular are always changing and interchanging with one another. So you're playing against a lot of your competition, but then you're also playing with a lot of your competition. How does that dynamic work on the PPA Tour?
That's true. I mean, you get a real feel for people's weaknesses when you play with them. And look, this game was a wonderful recreational activity, and it still is for so many players. However, it became a business. It became big business, and we see the PPA Tour pushing it in the correct direction. And now with the Tennis Channel, sky's the limit. It's that lefty slapping so well through the middle, Tyler Loong. He makes people believe there's a gap there, but he closes it so quickly, and his particular length is formidable. There's the first Ernie from Loong. Finished well from Dawson.
Yeah, beautiful setup on a 1-2 punch here. This is what we do with Tennis Channel. We've got the extra camera angle so you can really see the sport in a different light. And maybe you have before. It's great in terms of learning and seeing just how these guys can construct these points.
Yeah. No, so much is learnt by watching the game. Riley Newman, the closest to the screen on the right-hand side, he personally has been doing things on the court that even Ben Johns included haven't been able to do. The hand speed that he possesses and a very unique grip. You know, we see so often the same kinds of grips in tennis being used up at the net, typically kind of continental. He's using a semi-western, and he's able to squash balls so well out in front. And the kind of attackable areas that you'll typically see on someone, the dominant shoulder side, are not available for him. So his defense is almost impregnable.
Newman has really emerged as one of the most formidable doubles players on the tour. And it's for reasons like that, the quick reaction, quick hands. You can see just why he's so tough to get it by.
Yeah, incredibly difficult. And in the last 4 or 5 tournaments, these two have decided which sides they're going to play, and that's made a massive difference to their efficiency. When they first started together at the beginning of the year, Matt Wright, who typically loves playing on the left, he wanted to play on the left, and he has a right to do it. However, eventually he relinquished that position to Riley Newman, who similar in terms of dimensions, 6'2", 6'3" range, but he's quicker, a little quicker around the court.
Side out.
That's got to be tough, though, especially if you've done it one way your whole career.
For sure. Well, when Matt Wright started playing with Ben Johns, it was an obvious choice to let Ben play on the left-hand side. He's the alpha male in that particular duo. But when he joined up with Riley Newman, they weren't quite sure. But this has worked out very well for them, taking the last 2 titles.
A little bit of a mishap there. So an early lead here for Loong and Dawson, but Wright and Newman storming back after the quick hole. You know, Morgan, it's interesting. A lot of people, it feels like, who are new to the sport might play it recreational. They say, well, what's the difference between that recreational and the professional level? And I would argue that the very few unforced errors. You very rarely will see unforced errors at this level.
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's easy to look at some of the more high-flying kind of shots that end up in the highlight reel, but when it boils down to it, it's the players that are making the living playing professional pickleball, just making fewer errors. They do the basics better than anybody else.
We've seen a couple of exchanges with just some deep dink points. And the point construction I mentioned earlier really reigns through.
Matt Wright, he's so difficult to get the ball up into a difficult area. His height and strength in that backhand side especially is able to get the ball down so quickly. He looks like he's almost lackluster some of the times. Knees not particularly bent, but he is incredibly tough to get through. Newman's willpower, unable to get the ball over there. You'll see that a lot today. He throws his hands up in the air, and so often it works. No one's quite sure of the physics of it, but
right.
It seems to really work.
Yeah, who he made a deal with to get that power.
Yeah. So Loong and Dawson making their comeback again.
This is what we expected from this matchup, though. Should be close the entire way. And honestly, both these semifinals on the men's side should be fantastic.
Yeah, on the other side, we'll have an absolute barn burner for sure. AJ Kohler and Callan Johns, obviously the brother of Ben Johns, up against J.W. Johnson and Dylan Fraser, who just took down Jay DeVilliers and Tyson McGuffin.
That's the angle I like, where you can really see the exchange at the net.
For sure, and you can see how well some players are able to get the ball down over the net, and others struggle to kind of get that same angle and therefore keep control of the point. They've targeted Dawson a few times here. He seems to be back up off the line more often than he needs to. And I think if he was able to stay closer, he might be able to defend those attacks.
First timeout taken in this first game. Wright and Newman up 8-5 serving when we return. Wright and Newman off to a quick start. Take a look at the beautiful grounds. Lifetime Fitness in San Clemente, California, the Orange County Cup. Morgan, this is one of the favorite tournaments on tour amongst the players. What is it? Is it just the fact that the weather is perfect? Is it just the fact that the facility is beautiful? Or pretty much all of the above?
I think it's all of the above. I do know the players on tour have talked about this Lifetime Fitness San Clemente venue time and time again. And we can see, I mean, look at how beautiful the center court is, the crowd, the ambiance. And for me, the cafe was lovely.
I'm with you. If the food delivers, always good. our first smash of the day. And that was something we were talking about earlier, how players are starting to use that lob a little bit more efficiently and effectively to set up the points for themselves.
Yeah, this year has seen an absolute surge in lob proficiency. And we've got two of the best here. Callan Dawson put on a clinic in the recent tournament in Atlanta. One particular match, 13 just in game one, and I think 11 of which were successful. Typically taking it out of the air. And we see Dawson there getting involved, getting aggressive, going full Tarzan.
6-8-2.
That's the other part about the climate here. Currently about 68, 69 degrees, no real humidity, sun is out. And that's what you can expect for the entire day versus some other tournaments where maybe you have to bring 5, 6 shirts just to be prepared.
For sure, I know McGuffin, for example, a legendary sweater of the game. he's a 12 to 15 shirt kind of guy.
Wow.
In the US Open out in Naples, Florida, and the Atlanta tournaments. Wright and Newman look like they're just a couple of points away. They're rolling well. Found a good strategy.
Chemistry is apparent between the two. Wright, the 44-year-old, serving here.
A little risky, but it's a sign of his confidence right now. That goes a long way. Flick forehand from Matt Wright, when he's able to take it out of the air especially, it's so deceptive. And at the moment he's getting the better of Dawson. Dawson looked like he was scrambling backwards as he was hoping to counterpunch.
And there it is. First game goes to Wright and Newman, the #1 seed. Now just one game away from advancing to the final in San Clemente, California. Second game next on Tennis Channel. Matt Wright and Riley Newman take the first game. Newman at 28 years old has really taken the pickleball world by storm. And let's hear a little bit more from him himself about his playing style.
I would say a lot of people would consider my playing style as defensive oriented. I get a lot of shots back. I frustrate my opponents with my defensive skills. But now I've started to really add some offensive weapons to my game where now I'm unpredictable. I can be a little bit crazy at times, but that keeps my opponents on their heels. And then my favorite shot is my two-handed backhand. When I first started in 2017, there was really no one using the two-hand backhand. And actually I was told to not do it by a certain pro. And I said, no, screw you, I'm gonna do the two-handed backhand. And sure enough, now other pro players have started to kind of copy and started to use the two-handed backhand, and now you see it all over the place, and definitely it's my favorite shot.
That's something we had talked about, Morgan, back during the Orlando Cup, was how the last couple of years the two-handed backhand really has grown in popularity, and you're seeing it pop up more and more on the PPA Tour in particular, but I'm sure in the last 9 months that's only continued to move forward.
Yeah, certainly. I can't think of too many players outside of Matt Wright that are in the top 5-10 category that aren't using a two-handed backhand in some sense. Dawson is one of them.
What are the advantages of using the two-hander versus the one?
Well, one of them is hand speed, how quickly you can lock and load a paddle position that can counter an attack is helped a lot when you've got a second arm helping turn your torso, get the paddle prepared. I find it is a much more accurate shot as well. It's more stable, there's more control over it. There's not always as much power. And it looks like that lively arm of Loong has sent it a little bit long. Just check on that. Oh, no.
Oh, that landed.
Catches inside. That's good. Great shot. And Matt Wright, that's probably the first two-hander I've ever seen him hit. And he didn't quite find the court with it, but I hope he continues.
Seems like the right idea. There was a key communication between the two, both going for that initial smash. And this is a great start to the second game for Loong and Dawson.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them start game one very well. They weren't able to hold on to the lead. So let's see if they can keep up proceedings. He was screaming forward. And it looked like Newman was wise to it.
It was interesting. Dawson went with a little bit of that spin, that pre-toss spin on that serve, and Wright delivered a slice back that almost curved its way back and made it much more difficult to then attack on the counter.
Yeah, they have actually outlawed pre-spin on the serve at the PPA Tour. So yeah, I believe it's a regular-ish kind of ball toss.
I feel like you were the master of the pre-spin. Are you the reason they outlawed? You can be honest. This is a safe space.
I lobbied to keep it alive. I did start the trend about 3 years ago. 4 now, I guess. But we are seeing some fantastic cat and mouse. A lot of great points whereby going from dinks to fast exchanges, settling back with good reset volleys. This is what it's all about.
And this feels like a mirror image of the first game to this point, where Loong and Dawson got off to the quick start. Wright and Newman just found a very good rhythm. In fact, it's the same score as the first game.
Indeed. Yeah, the very best teams, you will see them lose game one occasionally. However, they're so good at finding a way, figuring out what exactly they need to do to take care of their opponents. And
timeout here in the second game. Feeling very similar. Some deja vu in Orange County on Tennis Channel. So I asked you, is it the facilities? Is it the weather? Maybe it's this. Maybe this is why the players love San Clemente in the Orange County Cup. I mean, that water, you really can't beat it. That color, unbelievable.
Beautiful. You'd have to go all the way to Australia to,
that's a good point.
To try to beat that kind of water.
Bondi Beach?
or City Beach.
Okay.
Scarborough.
I'll let you school me about that later.
Callan Dawson doing a great job getting that one down.
How does it go in terms of playing doubles and having that partner with you, making adjustments from game to game? Okay, so if you're Loong and Dawson, you lose that first game 11-6. What kind of adjustments can you talk about during that break? What kind of things can they do to really leave their impact now moving forward?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And unfortunately, these days, with a left-hander on the court, so many teams are kind of pigeonholing themselves into keeping that lefty on the right side. Just wait for this one to finish.
What an exchange.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like, honestly, it was just some of the third shots and fifth shot balls that were costing them in game one and a little earlier in game two. If they can tighten up those, especially from that Loong backhand, they'll have a great chance to stay in this. But the other team, Wright and Newman, they have a serious reach advantage. That said, Tyler Loong, he's one of those players, I've talked about it before, who he is, I think, exactly 6 foot tall, but his reach is of a 6'4" gentleman, and that makes things very tricky.
Now you can see his hands reach his knees essentially when he's standing straight up.
Yeah, I think they call it an apex number, apex factor, and he is very strong in that.
Out. I like that, Riley. You know,
So more aggressive play from Riley Newman evens things up at 4.
Go.
There's that long reach, Loong reach, so to speak. We'll keep it here, folks. We'll be here all week.
At least that's what we were told.
Came in out of nowhere, plucked it out of the air. Loong is really one of the veterans of the game. He's been doing this for, well, as long as Matt Wright, I think. And they must have played upwards of 50 matches against each other.
It's certainly a challenge of the professional circuit, just getting so comfortable playing one another. Those adjustments and those margins become razor thin. And for Loong, been professional since 2014. He's seen a few things at this point.
Yeah, for sure. What's interesting is how the growth of the game has inspired change. It's not just like new players are coming in and taking over. The veterans are having to kind of reinvent themselves, figure out what exactly they've got to do to firstly stay relevant and then hopefully still excel. Dawson has a fairly unique style to himself. Comes from baseball, and you'll see how he holds the paddle. Much more like a ping pong kind of grip. It gives him great hand speed and a lot of control. Doesn't have as much power as some of the other players because of it, though.
It's been a much more consistent second game for Loong and Dawson. Not really relenting anything on the Wright or Newman serve.
He loves that lob, however, with a lefty in the middle with the athleticism of Tyler Loong. That is very risky, and we can see why.
Just like that, Loong and Dawson just 3 points away from sending this to a decisive third game.
And rightly so, they have called for a timeout.
This is exactly what we had mentioned earlier, the momentum shifter. We'll see if it works out in the favor of Wright and Newman, or will Loong and Dawson send us the distance? Find out next on Tennis Channel. Well, if you can't make it to the ocean, might as well dip in the pool. That's a very nice environment to be a part of. 69 degrees and sunny, get as high as 73, as low as 61, about as perfect as you could ask for in terms of conditions for some pickleball and some semifinal action on the double side. Loong and Dawson serving at 8-4, 3 points away from sending this to a decisive third game for a spot in the final.
They tried to bail out with the lob, but we did see some wonderful creativity through the legs from Tyler Loong. Keeping it is one thing to go through the legs, but to keep it in a great spot in the kitchen, that is high-level stuff, folks.
So the timeout works perfectly. Wright and Newman just snatch that serve right back and give themselves a great opportunity here. See if they can take advantage.
Oh, he went for another one.
Sometimes you just got to stick with the one trip to the well.
Yeah, it's true, it's true. And one of the things I'm seeing here is the quality of the third shots from Matt Wright, especially Newman as well, but they're buying their team just enough time to get up to the kitchen line in one go, as opposed to often Newman and Loong are having to take a tough shot in that transition area to get up there as well. Matt Wright, he's really feeling it now. He's had his way with it for the most part when he's heads up with Callan Dawson. I often get Callan Dawson and his brother, Tyler Dawson, mixed up. They look very similar and both wonderful gentlemen.
So we saw one timeout taken from Wright and Newman that has flipped this second game on its head. And just like that, it's a 1-point game. Now it's got 4 semifinal doubles actions for you here today, all leading to Final Sunday in Orange County. That'll be tomorrow. We'll have every final taken care of, both singles, doubles, mixed. It should be a fantastic day of pickleball here on Tennis Channel.
Oh, that's a shot he needed. He's so good at it. Generally, he's able to lay that wrist back and apply plenty of power and usually spin the ball in.
And you may have heard the official 8-8-1. This is still the first server for Wright and Newman. Matt Wright has just been locked in. And it continues.
And I tell you, with some of these new angles, I'm really getting a better sense of just how high and loopy some of these third shots from Wright and Newman are. And they're able to just capitalize so quickly. They both have such an acute sense that each other's third ball is going to be safe. That, for example, now they're up. It hasn't worked yet. I'm curious why he's going to keep dipping into that well, but maybe third time's a charm.
Still Wright and Newman just 2 points away, and it'll be Newman serving.
That is a good early call of out. Incredible eyes to know from that particular angle it was definitely going long. It's Dawson's turn to try a risky lob. We'll send them all a memo at some point.
Just like that, Wright and Newman will claim it right back. And again, 2 points away from a victory and a spot in the final. Number 1 seed for a reason. These two have been mainstays, especially in the doubles scene. That's just clutch.
Yeah, no, very impressive work. Dawson had to pull off a tough shot while he was moving backwards and to his left. Managed to get it down just in time. Newman Matt Wright covering the middle, seeing the typical attack from Loong coming down the center, and he was frozen. That is a classic deer in the headlights.
Yeah, the misdirection from Tyler Loong, and now a chance to go back in front. How good is that?
That was tough doing. They managed, after 5 to 6 shots, to get their way up. And Matt Wright here makes an interesting decision. It's one thing doing that on serve, where you can't lose a point. However, on return of serve, he took a chance, didn't pay off.
Final timeout of this second game taken by Wright and Newman, as they will try to center themselves and finish it off when we come back. Back in San Clemente, the Select Medical Orange County Cup, our first of 4 semifinals here on Tennis Channel. This one on the men's side, the #1 seed Wright and Newman 2 points away. Loong and Dawson trying to send it to a decisive third game. Pretty.
Tyler Loong, he's one of the best counter punchers out there. And I think Riley Newman is feeling a little bit frustrated that he's kind of been left out of the game. And now 1 point away from sending it to game 3.
Oh. Big stuff from Matt Wright in a huge moment.
Yeah, it wasn't Dawson's best lob, but clutch work from Wright.
Called out, and we are going the distance in our first semifinal of the day. Loong and Dawson hold off a storming comeback from Wright and Newman, and just like that, we've got a decider. Back and forth we go in San Clemente, the Orange County Cup. We will have a victor when we come back on Tennis Channel. Third game here in San Clemente, our first of 4 semifinals on this fantastic Saturday in Orange County. Glad to have you with us here on Tennis Channel. Noah Eagle and Morgan Evans. Appreciate you coming along for the ride. If you're new to pickleball, hope you're enjoying what is a fantastic start to the day, for us at least, going to a third game between these 2 formidable squads.
And rightly so. Loong and Dawson, yes, they're the #4 seeds. Wright and Newman are the #1s. But the paper doesn't always tell the whole story. It did on that occasion.
1-0-2.
There's the Newman willpower.
It worked.
It did again. Nice work, guys. And they're off to a flying start already.
Opposite of the first 2 games, where it was Loong and Dawson getting off to the quick start, the early lead.
Yeah, it's so much more difficult to counter-punch some of those attacks while you're moving forward. If he's up there and set, not many people can get through Matt Wright. And Loong just off his back foot, unable to control that ball, sending it long.
I know you already mentioned it before, but that's got to be so difficult with the makeup of a pickleball to have the foresight to call it out when you're up at the kitchen line like that.
Oh, it really is. It's an incredible skill, underrated skill that, you know, we never really talk about.
Yeah.
But when you're on the court with a serious professional and you recognize just how quickly they're able to see a ball that's going out and they yell at the top of their lungs, it's a skill I never mastered quite as well as I'd hoped. But I admire Riley Newman. For me, is one of, if not the best. And whenever I've been on court with him, it's alarming when he knows a ball is out. Scares me sometimes.
Second server.
Glad to have you with us here today on Tennis Channel. No Eagle and Morgan Evans taking you through all the action of the Orange County Cup, part of the PPA Tour. And the #1 seed Wright and Newman now with a 3-1 advantage in this final third game.
Newman to serve. Yeah, I think if Newman and Wright can stay away from the basic plan of turning this into a firefight, they can find a quicker path to victory for sure. Their patience and their quality of the dinks is fantastic, but they're taking a lot of chances and it's not always working out. The hand speed of Dawson and Loong, fantastic.
And we have seen that reach that Morgan has mentioned for Loong a lot, whether it be those fading smashes behind him or even just reaching in that middle area. It's been tough to get it past him.
Very tricky. The only time he kind of suffers is when he's drifting backwards and he still takes a full cut at the ball. And there's the third Ernie, and I think the third successful Ernie.
For those who are unfamiliar, Ernie looks like that, where you jump over the kitchen and still catch the ball in the air. It's beautifully done. That's actually perfect execution.
That's an uncharacteristic dink error from Dawson. He is known, in fact, the whole Dawson family are known for the quality of their dinks. For many years, they were sort of deemed as a very conservative bunch of players. However, Callan Dawson, in the last 6 to 8 months especially, has really turned it on in terms of aggressive play. His mixed doubles game has really improved alongside Megan Sheehan Dazon. Been playing with her a lot recently. That's a commentator's curse there, isn't it?
Listen, I would always like to say that we don't have that kind of power, but I'm starting to believe we do.
Well, I mean, I earlier said, I think it should be around 70 degrees or so, no more than 71 in San Clemente. And that's what's happening. So weather and shot selections.
We have control.
Complete control.
I think Uncle Ben once said, with great power comes great responsibility.
This is true. Maybe we can manifest some return here. I've never seen Matt Wright miss a dink.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. That was actually right on time.
Oh, okay. Well, that's... if there was a mic I could drop right now, I would.
Gotta play the lottery tonight after that one. That was actually insane.
That's a fantastic dink rally. That game, that whole part of this game, the game within the game, that sort of area of chess, so to speak, that we talked about earlier. Unbelievable work. It might look simple on screen, but I can assure you it is certainly not. The Newman willpower again. And Matt Wright, beautiful backhand, able to get it down. Still creates really good topspin from high positions. So we'll have another chance here.
5-2-2.
So we'll switch sides, 6 points, Newman and Wright.
6 points to 2. 5 points away for Newman and Wright. Can they get the job done when we come back? Another look at the ocean. Waves coming crashing in. Just a beautiful sight. It's not hard to see why this is a favorite of the players and the fans of the sport. And a good turnout for pickleball in general. Glad to have more viewers and trying to invite you in. If you're new to the sport, this is a really good introduction. Certainly this matchup to start the day, start our coverage. Couldn't really ask for much more.
No, it has everything, really. 4 tried and true warriors of the game going at it. Fun to watch. Dawson, on that occasion, he suffered from the opposite of what had been happening earlier. A lot of balls flying long. Now he's compensating a lot, just a little too much there. Well, didn't cost him anything. He took that chance on serve.
2-7-1.
Great play from Wright, able to flick it down with the backhand into the open court.
2-7-2.
Dawson and Loong calling that ball wide. Not a lot of protest from Wright, so
Both these teams are very experienced in general, but even just in this tournament today, they've already gone to 3 games apiece. Oh, what a job by Newman!
Unbelievable stuff. Loong went for number 4. Just caught the tip of the paddle.
Read it perfectly.
For sure. I mean, that dink from Matt Wright was not something anyone would even consider trying to play an Ernie, unless you're Tyler Loong or perhaps Deckel Bar. Nice work, getting that ball down into a tough position. Newman was backing up. Made it pretty tricky for him to close that cone of death. We talk about it sometimes in tennis and in pickleball now.
It's a good reaction from Wright, just couldn't quite land it. So Loong and Dawson, they've got some work to do here, but they're hanging around just long enough to give themselves a chance.
Now the through the legs from Loong kept him alive. Just one extra ball, but in the end, not enough.
A good look at the two-hander that Newman talked about earlier, just how much he's enjoyed using that as a weapon. What a point!
Unbelievable. The point of the tournament so far. My gosh.
That right there is why Riley Newman is one of the best in the world. Just everything a brick wall.
Yeah, defensively, he's been well known as the best player in the game for quite some time. But his offense has really come along. That must have been just a tough part of the court there. Deceptively flat area in the kitchen.
Ooh.
This happens to the best of us. One amazing play tends to inspire some risky maneuvers in the forthcoming points. And Newman is human. Loong caught in transition, unable to support the paddle enough to get it up over the net, unfortunately. So timeout is called, a worthy timeout, I'd say.
Down the stretch we go in this third game. Wright and Newman 4 points away. Loong and Dawson are looming near. Lots of action still remaining. Don't go anywhere. Back and forth we go. This has been a push-pull affair to this point. And now Tyler Loong, Callan Dawson serving at 3-7-2 in the third.
And another fantastic Ernie from Loong. Saw his opportunity, leaping through the air like a gazelle. And great balance, holding himself, checking to make sure he was outside the kitchen, well established.
I think we're safe to say at this point, this has officially reached battle status.
Oh yeah, we have a ball game.
5-7-2.
Matt Wright there, just noticing Callan Dawson was back 3 or 4 feet off the line. Able to expose him because of it. fantastic play from Riley Newman. He's got this patented attack. He often launches with that backhand side, predicts the next ball is coming to his forehand, and with that big pancake squash, and comfortably able to use the fifth player in the court to help there. The net always plays a role.
Puts his team 2 points away. Another timeout call. This time Loong and Dawson will take the break and we'll stay here. So a 4-point game in this third game. It has been, it feels like every time Wright and Newman take a step forward, Loong and Dawson basically run to catch up.
Yep.
And certainly that first game, it was Wright and Newman who kept the momentum in their favor. Since then, Loong and Dawson have done a good job of finding that balance between the push and the pull. For sure.
For right now, Loong and Dawson, they're going to need to really start focusing on the middle of the court. There's some real risks involved doing it. Let's have a quick look at some of these recent highlight points. Newman, huge forehand through the middle. And getting a little bit of help from the net. And a worthy fist pump just to add some icing on the cake. But Loong and Dawson, if they can focus on middle dinks, right now the wings are really where they're getting caught. Matt Wright's forehand and Riley Newman's two-handed backhand is deadly. Keeping the ball in the middle of the court is tricky. There's less room to work with. The chances of overpowering a dink can easily lead to a high enough ball for opponent to attack, but it right now is the lesser of two evils.
It's wide, so there's one of them. To your point, kept it right in the middle too.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial. However, Wright and Newman, they're not finished yet. They'll have another chance to put points on the board. But they took a chance, as you so often do, trying to sprint towards a finish line.
That finishing pressure, it is omnipresent, especially in decisive games like this, with a spot in the final on the line.
And looked like Loong just not completely set before he tried to play that. It is a beautiful slice backhand dink. For some reason, lefties always just look very stylish doing it. Reminiscent of Feliciano Lopez.
Good call.
Great put away from Wright. So 2 points away.
Feels like because of the makeup of the ball, a lot of times it comes less down to the power of the shot and more so the angle, the placement. And that's what we've seen from these two now, putting themselves 1 point away.
Yeah, and very often how early you can actually contact it plays a bigger role. So match point for Newman and Wright.
Oh, they stay alive.
Fortuitous, to say the least, from Tyler Loong.
We'll have another crack at it with Wright serving.
Slight mishit.
What a way to end it. The top team is headed to the final in Orange County. Matt Wright, Riley Newman win it 11-5 in the third.
Yeah, it was a great fight from Loong and Dawson. They certainly had their moments, taking game 2 well, and they looked pretty strong in a lot of game 3.
It was truly a battle between these two teams, and another look at how it would eventually close out. Just a slight miss off the racket of Callan Dawson, and it gives these two a spot in the final. Plenty more to come. We'll hear from the winners when we return on Tennis Channel. Expected jubilation for Matt Wright and that man Riley Newman, who continues his success on the doubles side. Hear more. We go to Hannah Johns on site with the victors.
Well, welcome back to Championship Court on our semifinal Saturday coverage. These guys are into Championship Sunday. Congratulations. Callan and Tyler came out so strong in Game 2. What did you guys chat about before going into Game 3?
Yeah, it felt like we started to play a little more aggressive actually in Game 3 when those balls are a little bit higher at the kitchen line. I wanted to be aggressive. I feel like Matt and I, we have some of the 2 best hands in the world, so we got to be able to use that. I felt like in Game 2 we were a little bit more passive. When we got to the dink rallies, we just kept kind of dinking. And we felt like to get over the hump, we really wanted to be aggressive with a ball that we could go at them and use our hand speed.
Well, I want to talk about those hands battles, those super fast exchanges at the kitchen line. What goes into training for that?
Probably just going heads up with your practice partner. A lot of players like to go inside the kitchen, maybe shorten the distance from 7 feet to the net to maybe 4 or 5. And then when you get out into a match, in theory, the ball might slow down a little bit. That's a good way. It's probably the best way I know how, to be honest with you, yeah.
Well, guys, you were rivals before you chose to partner up. How did you flip the switch and create this incredible partnership?
The guy standing to my right, we were not the best friends in 2018, 2019. I definitely despise this guy, but that's just competitive nature. I felt like we played against each other so many times in mixed doubles, but now Matt was like, hey, Riley, let's team up. I think we could be a really good pairing, and so far so good. I'm glad that he asked me to play, and now we're just rock and rolling together.
Congratulations, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.